I am Shao Kahn. Bow to
Greetings,
me.
combatants. Today I decide not to do a gameplay video for this topic because it's a little hard. Because I feel like it's much easier to do it with an actual picture of the design. But today's topic of discussion will be the best Shao Kahn design ever put to screen, ever put to gaming. Now I know some people are not going to agree with this opinion, and that is perfectly fine. You do not have to agree with it. But from my personal perspective and many of the OG fans' personal perspective, this is the best design Shao Kahn has ever had. Now, I think it's safe to go into some background before we get into this, before we do anything else. Shao Kahn's first appearance was in the MK2 prequel comic, where he was using this design. The first time we saw him in gaming was him shown in complete darkness, towering over Shang Tsung, pointing down at him for his failure. Now this version does not show his red eyes, which was a gameplay thing, because when you fought him, you didn't actually see his eyes, which is also pretty cool. It adds a air of mystery to the helmet, like the helmet's so dark it literally covers his red eyes when you fight him. It's very cool. So first of all, what makes this design so iconic? Well, I can safely say this design is very bold for its time. Midway Shao Kahn was very flawless in the way he was developed, and a part of it was his magnanimous design. His magnanimous, the correct word, no, is his malicious, malevolent design. This design sticks out. This design looks incredibly iconic for various reasons. First of all, the helmet. You can see that there's an array of spikes along the top of his helmet. This is the only helmet of his who has as many silver spikes as it does. The helmet is also metallic. It is not a skull mask. It is a skull mask. It is a skull. But it is metallic. It is metal. It is silver. It's not actually bone. Which is pretty cool. And really held a significant standard because then the helmet is less likely to break in combat. First of all, the iconicness of the helmet, the fact that it's silver, the fact that he has these horns right here, the fact that it's actually shaped in the face of a skull, the fact it's very Japanese with the kind of armor it has over here. Now, surely this is not the best picture to use for this, but, well, it's one of the better pictures I got for this scenario, so yeah. This is the original MK2 picture, and I could always get a better picture of him in this pose. But it's the one that actually shows his legs, which the MK2 one, which is a really good picture, does not, so it's what I have to go with. First of all, the helmet overall is very iconic and very ruthless looking. Like you see someone wearing this and you're like, that's scary in general. Like I think the problem with many of his modern costumes now is that they're just not as intimidating. They just don't look this fearsome. If you see this on the battlefield, if you see this while you're trying to fight and actually win in these battles, you're going to be unsettled. This is a very unsettling design to look at. It's scary. It's supposed to be scary. That's what they were going for. They wanted him to look scary, and this really holds the intimidation factor. The fact that he's very big and very muscular also adds to it. Like, Shao Kahn's a very powerful character. He's very huge. Also, his armor makes a lot of sense in general. Like, it's a it's gladiatorial armor inspired with a samurai aesthetic, especially with the groin armor here. Like, that's a very Japanese inspired design. So the shoulder armor in particular. The shoulder spikes are a lot sharper than the ones in MK9. Like, midway spikes were always very sharp, while the ones in 9 are pretty dull in general. And his Japanese inspired shoulder armor is also really cool and looks really intimidating. The X straps with that octagon shaped metallic skull in the center looks a lot better than what they do now. They just have a small skull in the center for the X straps, and this just speaks way more volumes. The fact you have these metal orb shaped pieces that are attached to the X straps would really add to the design in general. The armor for his wrist is also really cool. Because in general, no matter he's hitting you with it, if he's hitting you with a backhand, if he's hitting you with an overhead, he is hitting you with one of these spikes at least, and that's extremely painful. I always found it cool how his armor for his wrists are definitely the Japanese inspired armor. I really find it cool in general, like the hand armor very much looks like the kind of Japanese style armor that they would use back in the day. Also, let's not forget the claws. The claws are badass. The claws really speak volume to how powerful of a character he was. If you get hit by those things, you're dead. Like, very few people can actually survive getting hit by his clawed armor. It was very much an aesthetic of his design. It was meant to be painful. The fact that every time he landed a hit on you, it was always the 20% damage. Unless you're blocking. But from what I've seen, especially fighting him during Mortal Kombat Trilogy, blocking doesn't really help that much. Because you block his attacks and then he's going to start making you feel the wrath of Shao Kahn, as he would say, because he literally is just bashing you with multiple moves until your health bar is reduced to nothing, even while you're blocking, and because he puts you into the corner. It's crazy like that, but that's the kind of aesthetic that this character was all about. His design is flawless in many different ways. The oval-shaped belt with the silver skull in the middle as well. That is still an example of how powerful this type of armor was. It's very much cooler in general compared to what they do now with it, which is have that simple skull be there. There should always be something around it that adds to the effect, showing that this design in general has that many do not. This phased out of his designs in Deadly Alliance, and yes, while I do like some designs better than this, like Deadly Alliance, because of the cape and the Deadly Alliance is basically just MK2 with, instead of 3 spikes on each shoulder pad, it's simply 6. And the cape, which is why it is favorable, but it very much still is flawlessly adapted to the previous design, and I cannot speak any less volumes of how important this is aesthetically. Okay, so So the armor surrounding his groin area is also a very interesting topic of discussion because this is definitely Japanese right here. The way this armor is woven together, the way this armor is shown, this is Japanese. And this was armor. It was not the thin cloth waist cape that he uses in all the other designs. It is actually an armor is substance. It is meant for him to be able to move with it, but it's still armor. And it speaks a high amount of volume. Okay, the leg armor. Let's get into that. The 3 spikes. Much better than what they do now, which is have the spikes go down the row. Even 1 spike for the 3D air armor was a better idea than having the 3 spikes in a row go down. You want to be able to hit your opponent with the knee. The rising knee is meant to hit his opponent with, and having a spike be right there where he can hit his opponent and completely shatter their face to pieces with the spikes is meant to do. Besides the fact that Shao Kahn's super strong and any basic hit will completely obliterate any opponent he comes up against, that's besides the point. But it's aesthetically speaking, the fact that this design is very much in tune with how he should be designed. He was meant to be designed intimidatingly, and the fact that the newer games have not attempted to even bring back this design. They'll bring back the 3D Air design, but they will butcher it in a way that makes it look kind of like a new design, withholding some of the aesthetics from the previous designs, is really a testament to how the writing team does not care about preserving Kahn's legacy as a character. They don't care anymore. They don't want to be in line with this character, and they don't understand, or they just don't want to care enough to put back into the effect of why Midway Shao Kahn was such an important character. His design spoke volumes, and his design was one of the catalysts for speaking the highest amount of volumes in general. The armor for his ankles and thighs. Well, thighs or yeah, thighs. Knee armor, thighs, yeah, same thing. Calves, I mean, calves. The leg armor for his calves is definitely a lot better as an aesthetic. It's a very good design. I like how the armor has these patterns that are shown to be Japanese inspired. These patterns that really speak to how much of a warlord he truly is. Because if you see this, you're going to be, well, if you see this, you're more likely going to be scared. So it really holds volumes to why Shao Kahn was such a important character who held such volume and had such a big impact on the series. He was never a joke. He was never a stupid brute. He was a cunning tactical genius, and his design spoke to his cunningness. His design was indicative of how he was a very quick and brutal fighter, and he would always be going for the kill and always making sure he defeats his opponent as quickly as possible in the most strategic way possible. The armor speaks to that because this armor is meant to hurt. There is no spike addiction. Unlike Shredder, the spike addiction actually makes more sense because his spikes are all placed in a way where he can actually use them correctly. Like if he ever wanted to, he can use the shoulder spikes to impale enemies. If he headbutts someone, they're going to be hit by that center spike. You cannot see at the moment, but it's very much there. He has a center spike sticking out of the center of his skull mask, so he can actually nail someone right in the head if necessary. With every punch, he's completely eviscerating any opponent. And yeah, this is Shao Kahn, conqueror of realms, the one who makes none taste victory. Also the shoes. The shoes are pretty cool. I know they didn't go for the gladiatorial sandals, and someone, you could make an argument saying the shoes are the least aesthetically pleasing part of the design, but if that's all he has going for him, that is lesser than everything else on the costume, then that's fine. Also, the shoes kind of make more sense realistically. I do like the sandals more for various reasons, but I will tell you, as someone who has actually attempted to do the shoulder charge, doing it with sandals and not being Shao Kahn is completely ridiculous. You end up falling on your face attempting to do so. So the shoes are probably a good way to counteract the fact that he's literally sliding across the floor at the same time. So yeah, I think the shoes do make a lot of sense for attempting to do a shoulder charge, and yeah, this is my point of this design. Shao Kahn's best design is here. I will have other picture. You will see other pictures throughout this video, showing off the designs showing the design in different ways and showing the aesthetically pleasing. Also, there will be pictures comparing other designs. I will be doing videos on comparing this original design to the future designs that have already come out, designs who have already came out after MK2 and 3. But yeah, it just adds a lot of intimidation factor to Shao Kahn as a character, and I think as an audience we need to accept the fact that though NRS refuses to admit it, Midway Shao Kahn was the best version of the character for more reasons than one. It wasn't just his craftiness, it wasn't his overwhelming power. His design also spoke volumes. And if I'm going to be honest, Midway Shao Kahn was flawless as a character. He was done so well. He was very intelligent in the way he did things. And I feel that many of the aspects that made Midway Shao Kahn such a good character have been lost over the years. And that in general, the writers really need to bring back what made this character so good, and one of the ways you can do that is bring back this original design in the updated graphics forms, which will show it for how truly glorious and how intimidating it truly was. Like someone I watched said that someone I watched play against him said that he does not look that intimidating in MK9, but if they were to play this, they would probably have a different perspective because this design actually looks much more intimidating. Like MK9 very much looks like, okay, that's your villain, but MK2 says, ooh, it's like, the reaction is very much different because this speaks that this is Shao Kahn. The villain, the main villain you will be facing during the arcade run. Not just some average common villain. No, he's the big bad, and he aesthetically keeps that big bad persona throughout his original games, and you never feel and never think that he is just not as cool as he should be. Because what we see at him in the game shows him to be extremely powerful. Alright, without further ado, I want to thank you all for watching. This has been my video on the original Shao Kahn design, and how, in my opinion, it is the best. And it's not even opinion; it's just fact at this point that this is Shao Kahn's best design. It doesn't have to be a personal favorite, but it is by aesthetically and design-wise his best design. I want to thank you all for watching. If you like my content, feel free to like and subscribe. If you don't, thank you for watching anyways.